Hi, everyone. We are right at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today. Today, we're going to talk about how Brewster Academy supports Apple technology in the classroom. And Brewster Academy is a really progressive educational institution with a very diverse culture and has a tremendously rich experience and long-standing experience in managing Apple devices in a one-to-one laptop program that they implemented many, many years ago. So today we're going to talk about how Brewster has implemented the BYOD program. We're going to talk about how Brewster leverages technology to embrace student autonomy and student empowerment. And we're also going to talk about some programs that Brewster has developed to integrate technology training for digital citizenship and other technology engagement. My name is Jason Sandlin. I am with Jamf Software, and I'm joined today by Chris Hafner, Technology Coordinator at Brewster Academy. And Chris is a really experienced and innovative Apple IT guy, and he's an all-around good guy. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself further?
Hey, thanks, Jason. I'm Chris Hafner, Technology Coordinator and Support Analyst for Brewster Academy. I manage and maintain most of the direct use technology that we have here. In addition, on the side, I am a technical advisor on the board for the Appalachian Mountain Team Project. I'm a father, husband of two, and if that, I am a husband and father of two. I had to have one slip up somewhere, right? And if that wasn't enough, I'm actually training to be a ski patroller at a local ski mountain. The nice thing to that is hopefully by the end of this I can show you that I don't have to spend my entire life managing the infrastructure that we have here because of the tools that we have and the way that we've used them. To talk about Brewster Academy a bit, we are a private, primarily boarding ninth grade through postgraduate school in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire on beautiful Lake Winnipesaukee. You may have seen this from the first slide as we started up. We're rather diverse. We have students during our winter programs from 22 different countries and almost all of the states here in the U.S. I think it's something like 48 states this year, and I'm not going to point any out, otherwise I'm going to miss something. We're going to talk about how we utilize technology to focus on learning over that technology. We've got a stats page here, and the stats page is kind of interesting. The biggest stat that I like to point out is our 21 years running a one-to-one laptop program here. Pretty much since Apple came out with a laptop in the very early 90s, Brewster saw that as a really great tool to be able to support curriculum within the classroom and build that interaction in over time. So some other bits here, we average about 620 to 650 managed OS X devices, primarily BYOD, for about 365 students. We have 57 full-time teachers and 1 full-time Casper administrator. Now, full disclosure, I have a director and a hardware tech and a network engineer, a help desk technician, and a database developer. But when it comes to managing directly OS X and iOS devices, it's just me. And the best part is it doesn't take up all of my time. And additionally, I hope to show you that stats here don't matter quite so much because scale, as long as you've got the basic infrastructure, is relatively unimportant when it comes to managing the devices. Now, many years ago, and having been a one-to-one laptop program for 21 years, we've done all sorts of renting and leasing and buying, programs for our students because for a long time that made sense. But after a time, BYOD started to become popular. And about 5 years ago, our parents and administrators got together and decided that, Brewster didn't want to buy computers for everybody every more and lease them to them or rent them or so on and so forth. Parents wanted to bring, their own computers for their students, be it smaller MacBook Airs or larger MacBook Pros, depending on what the student wanted to do. But taking the program that we had at that point, where we were managing all of our computers, physically over a summer and repairing and cleaning and prepping these machines to turn out on day one of school and take them all back at the end was really necessary at the time. And we started to wonder, how do we maintain the program? And we started to get all sorts of different recommendations from our administrators and different questions. They said, well, what if we have the students buy all the software and they come in prepped at the beginning of the year? Not really sure I could trust that to actually happen. But then we took a look at software differences in price between institutional and educational software prices for students. You take a look at something like the Adobe Suite, which now is $100 a year for a student. So that's $36,500 for our students, or we can get a site license for $2,700. So it made a lot of sense for us to be providing a majority of the software, and then on top of it, how do you manage that, right? So it's easy to write this all out on paper. This, all come into fruition. We were being told that we no longer had the summer to deal with computers, bring them in, when they started here at Brewster, and when they were done, they had to leave with them. So we were worried about licensing, we were worried about imaging, we were worried about all these things that we had sort of become very, very, accustomed to dealing with. In dealing with balancing restrictions and personal ownership of these machines. The more personal a connection that you have to these, the more you tend to be able to get done. So we had a lot of considerations to take into account there. And going into talking about our program was so heavily integrated with the concepts of what's now talked as digital citizenship. I know a lot of schools nowadays that have specific digital citizenship courses, or they spend their time certifying students in the use of computers and running tests and different things like that. But when we talk about digital citizenship here and training, these are things that happen in classes on a day-to-day basis. Our students start out and they're trained throughout their course load here at Brewster Academy and how to deal with the various bits of technology that we have for them. As we implemented the Casper Suite, which is something that I'm going to show you a little bit later in the presentation, we began to realize that we had such flexibility and such power that we could manage everything we wanted. We could lock everything down as much as we wanted. We could leave it as open as we wanted. So we were able to develop this semi-automated approach to distributing the software that students absolutely had to have, allowing the freedom for them to explore other software items where we didn't have any security concerns or different material concerns, I should say. And we were able to develop all of these approaches because we have a very interesting IT department here and a very interesting collaboration within the school, and it's something that we call an immersive IT experience, and well, at least as we've been writing this presentation. We have an IT department that regularly participates in department meetings, faculty meetings, observes classes, has lunch and runs internships. Matter of fact, our computer science teacher is our database developer that is part and parcel here with IT, and that really allows us to not only help meld the IT policies that we have to really meet the curricular needs, but kind of gives a really great understanding back and forth of technology policies and how it fits into the classroom. And that's part of what you're seeing here in this slide. Now, to take it a step further, we need to spend a lot of time on professional development with our faculty and our students. And as we continue to move this along with our curriculum, we continue to change all the technologies that we use, as any school has to. Over 21 years, half the things that we were using, even 10 years ago, hardly even exist anymore. So we've developed a number of professional development programs with our faculty members, one of which is Brewster Summer Institute, or BSI, which is, at least on the technology side, a week-long training process over the summer for new and incoming faculty or any faculty members that need a refresher. Fun part about that is actually most of the technology courses taught by our faculty members. We have online blogs, one of which we've integrated into self-service that I'll show you later. We have a new process that we've started this year called Tech on Tap, which is a mid-year a kind of get-together for our faculty members to talk about new technology that they're using in their classroom. And the on-tap part is since the students are off campus, we have our dining services bring in some beer and some hors d'oeuvres and so on and so forth. In the end, that brings us around to student autonomy. student autonomy is something that we really want to make sure that we achieve by the time our students graduate and they head off to college. After all, we're providing an awful lot of support for them within our academic programs here, both academically and technologically. But when they go off to college, they don't have any of those, and so we also want to make sure that as we're providing that, we're making them comfortable in certain technology processes, including certain types of updates that we don't consider critical, allowing them the freedom, to add personal printers and personal devices, certain applications out of the Mac App Store and things like that, where once again, we don't have any specific, safety or security concerns, which allows them to maintain a personal connection to their technology, both inside and outside of class, increasing their comfort and encouraging creativity. Because in the end, computers and all of this technology is a tool. It is a means to an end and not the primary focus of our program. And that's where we talk about the focus on learning over tech. And really, we're here to be a guide, not a guard. And so with all that basic guide out of the way, how do we do that? So there are a variety of components to the Casper Suite. Casper was the software suite that we identified a few years before we went to BYOD, and so we kind of had this kicking around in the back of our head that this was the suite of software that we could use to really facilitate the whole process. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the way in which we have organized our Casper Suite to be able to provide BYOD services here at Brewster Academy, and most importantly, to match those really difficult, seemingly impossible tasks we were given by our administration early on, which involved essentially prepping all of the students' computers in a day or two at the beginning of class without interrupting the beginning of class and without getting those computers in early and letting them go at the end. And then maintaining machines for faculty, staff, and other departments here. So when we start putting this all together, we need to get all of our software in one place, and we need to be able to build up those packages. Early on, we had been in monolithic imaging, and that really didn't seem to make a lot of sense. So we progressed into using a package called Composer. Composer was a piece of software that allowed us to build packages and disk images and different software installers out of either pre-existing software that we had, as in the case, what you're seeing here is a layout of Microsoft Office. This is actually one that was captured in a package manifest. A package manifest is something that allows you to run Composer on a machine that has a piece of software installed and capture all of the bits in it. And anybody that knows any good Microsoft product knows that there's a lot of dependencies within Microsoft Office. So this package manifest has been vetted by the Jamf Nation community and Jamf themselves. I tend to do a lot of snapshots. So the next picture we're going to show you is just a snapshot capture of Citrix Receiver. It's a slightly older one, 11.8.2, where I was able to do a snapshot of the system hierarchy on my OS, install Citrix Receiver, and then take a follow-up snapshot. It gives me the difference between those things, and I can make whatever granular adjustments in there that I need to. You can also drag and drop in mobile applications or scripts. Here I've got a couple of scripts that I dragged into a temporary folder just to show that you could do this instead of writing out the script to do that. VLC is another one. It's a mobile app that you can drag straight into Composer and build a package or a disk image out of it. But more importantly, and beyond that, one of the biggest debates that we have in the packaging imaging community is how do we deal with operating systems and permissions. So at the bottom here, we've actually got a really nice permissions selector and slider that actually kind of mimics the permissions panel at the bottom of your standard Mac OS X Get Info page, and you can push permissions down and so on and so forth, and make sure that you've got those granularly controlled in the way that you need to. And operating systems. This is one of my favorite bits. This is actually a brand new feature in the latest version of Composer, is the ability to capture a disk image of an operating system along with the Recovery HD. There's plenty of discussion in the community about whether or not you prefer to deploy a non-booted operating system or a booted operating system that may have had a slight modification in there. I'm one of the ones that prefers to have a booted operating system for deployment, and I'm able to capture that really simply with Composer. On the right here, we've got a series of settings actually becomes available to you once you select your volume that you want to put together, and that allows you to do just some basic cleanup items that you'd like to do on any operating system without having to go through SIU or different things like that on a Mac OS X server. Now, once you take all of those packages and you figure out and you put those all together, we need to put them in a place, and we'd be able to put them into configuration so that we can image computers and distribute them in other ways throughout the suite. Casper Admin is the application that we're going to use for that. In here on the next slide, I've put together just a quick snapshot of my version of Casper Admin, and I always like to throw up there, look, you can see it's current because we've got a current version of Adobe Flash Player in there. I'm sure by the end of the week we'll have another version in there, and we can talk about how easy that is to put in. In the case of Adobe Flash, actually you can take the package that's distributed by Adobe for administrators and just drag it clean into there and distribute that out as you need to. Moving into configurations or moving into some basic package configuration, I should say. Here we've got a general general screen for a package for iMovie. The latest version, 10.07 from the Mac App Store. This is a receiptless package that we captured through actually some great information that we got from Jamf Nation. We've placed it into a category so we can generally find it for later. And then on the right here, I've set some basic restrictions in that down on the bottom, I've said that this requires 10.10 as an operating system, and therefore I can't accidentally assign it to 10.9 units. I've given it a priority up at the top. Priorities is something that you set in Casper Admin so that you can control the install order of things. For instance, you don't want to install updates to iMovie before you've installed iMovie. That wouldn't do you any good. You can also elect in here to fill user templates or existing user home directories if you have licensing files that need to live in those areas. One of my favorites is allow the package to be uninstalled. I index all of my disk images that I've created in Composer, so at the end of our year we can do a quick uninstall of all of our licensed software and let our students go. And once we've packaged all that together, then we can start to make a configuration. It's really easy to make configurations. If you want to think of a configuration within Casper Administrator as a specific imaging list. So here I would create a parent configuration. This is an example of what we would make for a 10.9 student parent. And on the right, just the basic management settings that we set for that. So this is a username and password for a management account that I've actually already created on that previously touched base OS. However, if you're using a non-booted OS, then this can create that management account, hide the account, and enable SSH so that you can continue to use it as part of the package. Once I've made that primary configuration, I introduce several smart groupings or smart configurations under those for things like our student labs or other demographics where I may need all of that standard student package plus a couple of extras, and that makes upgrading these configurations as you get new packages throughout the year really, really simple. So on the left-hand side, you can see in the blue folders here are our standard configurations and smart configurations under those on the purple smart folder icon. This actually, as we zoom in, is a configuration that we have for students at the beginning of this year. We're already running 10.10 in a number of places, but for our students, we've started at 10.9 in September of this year and installed all of these bits and pieces from all of our Microsoft Office packages and iLife and iWork and all of the Google stuff, along with a variety of community communication applications and things like that. They use a lot more applications than these, but a lot of those are distributed through self-service, which is something that we'll talk about in a little bit. So once we've put this all together, now we need to provision machines. So provisioning machines is huge. This was one of our biggest fears. We've got all of our students coming in. We have them for a Saturday and a Sunday, and now just a Sunday before the beginning of school, while they're running about and they're doing swim testing and sign-ups for athletics, dorm key assignments, and things like that. And in and amongst there, we have to image, all of the student computers, 365 student computers, as quickly as is possible. We do that through a process called pre-stage. Pre-stage allows you to predefine groups of computers either by serial number, MAC address, or network segment to automatically run Casper imaging and the configuration when a machine is net booted. So we have all of our students or their parents submit their serial number over the course of the summer through our student information system. We compare that against GSX, which is Apple's warranty database, to ensure that they meet our minimum requirements, and then their serial number is placed into a pre-stage. So when the student comes by our imaging station, which is a place that we've sectioned off in the school, where we're able to image about 50 computers at a time. They sit down, plug in, whether that be with an Ethernet cable or Thunderbolt to gigabit Ethernet adapter, turn the computer on, hold N, and their computers are immediately wiped clean and imaged to give us a nice, fresh, blank slate for the beginning of the year. And inventory that machine, name the machine, and set up the student's accounts. You can vary the level of complexity here, but part of the reason why we touch all of our base OSs ahead of time is because we have less than 15 minutes to do this for a group of 50 students on average to get through our teams, and that includes bringing them into the room and plugging them in and so on and so forth. We have the MacBook Airs now doing that in about 6 minutes. This is what Casper imaging looks like when it boots up. In the pre-stage, we've actually pre-configured it to define the target drive, the computer name, what configuration it gets, and what distribution point it's pulling things from, and whether or not we want that to save that data for auto run for future imaging. And then you either click image if you're doing a repair imaging or doing a pre-stage imaging. It just starts block copying everything over. If you do want a block copy of the entire image, by the way, you do need to compile that in Casper Admin. Single button click, pretty easy. Now, with that said, now that we've gotten all of our devices in here, we've given them their image, we've gotten all of that set up, there's still more to do. So how do we distribute packages throughout the rest of the year? How do we handle critical updates? How do we handle optional updates? Well, that all gets set up, assuming that we've created all of those software packages or disk images and various things inside Casper Admin. We have to start building groups. And we build groups within our JSS by defining a number of categories for our various units. We tend to primarily use department settings. For instance, admissions, administrators, athletics, students, loaners, faculty, and then various faculty departments. These are rather broad, and we can assign software packages or different permissions right to those. We use a lot of extension attributes. Extension attributes are programmable methods by which you can gain extra data from the computer, either from a script and that spits out a string. So, for instance, we can detect an active network interface. We can see how many admin users on there, whether or not a machine is bash vulnerable, what version of Flash or what version of Java does it have, because those are things that the system can't report natively. Actually, we can also determine, smart failures and kernel panic events using extension attributes. And then using some of those things along with some other metrics available in the system, we can build a number of smart groups to make policies available dynamically to our users, either based on previously installed software, amounts of free space that they have on their machine, the number of groups that they're they're party to. So, for instance, it's pretty easy to distribute something like the latest version of Firefox because we can detect what version of Firefox they had previous and offer them the update, which is assuming you don't have an automatic update set for that. To be able to push forward Java when they don't have the latest version of Java, because we do shut off the auto updater. We don't want them having Java pop up in front of them because our students aren't administrators and they can't type an administrator password if they wanted to making sure that you're not offering to install Yosemite on a machine that's running 10.7 and it's 90% full. So once we've set all those aside, we can start building our policies. In this list of policies that we have about 156 individual policies available to our users, and it's really clean from their side of things. We've blown up a few to show you, our base categories for browsers and encryption. We can light off File Vault 2 encryption through self-service, or do something as simple as distribute Firefox. So they're really, really, really highly configurable. The next policy is my favorite because it's the one that we build all the time, and it's Adobe Flash Player. Adobe Flash Player, we have a hybrid approach to distributing this particular package because we consider any new Flash package a potential security risk and a user concern because they come out every X number of days and sometimes several times a week. We make them available as a manual download in self-service for our users for the first 48 hours unless there's a critical vulnerability that's being patched, and then after that time we push a Flash to them in the background. And as it's pushed them in the background, their inventory process sees that through that extension attribute and pulls them out of the smart update. So they're no longer offered that in self-service. So you can wrap multiple policies together in a really nice, smooth, and granular fashion for your users. Now, to keep track of all of that, actually one of my favorite features since JSS 9 is your administrator dashboard. Actually, anybody that has rights to log into the JSS, anybody in your IT department or anybody else that you've identified that needs reporting access to this, can start building various dashboard metrics to see how policies are being distributed, to see where failures are, to see compliance completion, to see smart group categories, and that's huge to be able to look at a glance, to be able to have on your director or academic dean's desktop, the kind of state of the fleet, as it were. Really, really, really powerful features. And to kind of cap off, before we get into questions and answers, just to go over self-service. Self-service is the most powerful tool that our users see as part of this suite. It is the piece in which we can empower our users to take down and install additional software components, whether they be updates that we're recommending. The next slide here is a featured page from a user's self-service that hasn't updated in a while, but these were updates that we didn't consider immediately critical at the moment. The latest version of Citrix, iFlash, Java would be pushed. We took a picture of it before that. And the next slide shows once they've gone through and clicked on that, how those policies disappear out of there. This user probably wanted to wait on Yosemite, although I will happily report that we are pushing Yosemite updates over the air in under 20 minutes, which is fantastic. The next slide is just a couple of different sidebars that we have. We distribute all of our printers. We do a lot of IP-based printing here on campus, and one of the easiest ways to familiarize your users with self-service and with the various things that you've made available to them is to give them some sort of an incentive to open it. We found that printers is the easiest way to do that. Actually, a majority of our categories on the right are sections of printers that are made available to users either by your either department placement or by smart groups available to you. Sometimes we'll even create a self-service policy for certain personal printers if their setup is particularly difficult. We maintain some IT and maintenance pages. This is a little bit of an older one. Anytime we've identified a fix or a patch that we're working on, we'll often make it available in self-service for either our users to run to fix problems that we may know about that they need to take care of, or allow our IT staff to quickly take care of what would be arduous IT tasks and just make them simpler and easier to run. Beyond that, we also incorporate a number of plugins on the sidebar of self-service. Plugins can be a number of things, but we tend to use them to represent websites. In this case, Brewster's technology blog, where we put just random pieces of advice, tutorials on how to use various bits of software and so on and so forth. We're not open 24 hours a day down here in the IT department, and sometimes you really have to figure something out at 9 o'clock at night when you're trying to get your paper submitted for your next morning's class. Now, there are a million ways to run all of this. I admit, I had a certification for Jamf as we brought it in. Went out and took my CSE with Jamf, and we had a setup that was performed for us to incorporate this. But the area where I have learned more than anything else about how to utilize the Casper Suite, and far beyond that, Mac administration from all levels, from kindergarten up into most of the Fortune 500 companies that manage Macs that you can think of, all seem to be members of the Jamf Nation community. I have a technical account manager, and I've got to tell you, I can't really remember the last time I called him. It may have been September to talk about licensing. So as you continue to explore the Casper Suite, or if you're already using the Casper Suite, I really encourage you to spend most of your time here. It's kind of funny. I spend more time in Jamf Nation learning about a variety of different things than I actually do managing our fleet of OS X and iOS devices.
Right on, Chris. Well, I will call it a day there. I want to thank you, Chris, for joining us and telling part of your story. Keep doing great things over there, and we're so thankful that you're so involved in the community. And from Jamf, I want to thank everybody that joined us today. I'm sure you learned plenty. We always do when we work with customers like Chris. Please, stay active and engaged in the community. If you're not part of the Jamf Nation community, head to jamfnation.com. And if you'd like to work with us or contact us, you can always go to jamsoftware.com and either request a trial and put your hands on the product, or contact us, and we'd be glad to help you in any way that we can. So with that, I want to thank you, Chris, and everyone else, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks.